Hi there. Welcome to the Sheer Recovery Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Villanos, and we have a very special guest today, Josh Knutti of the Overcoming You podcast. Josh, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. We're really excited today to highlight mental health and recovery from mental health, depression, suicidal thoughts, those things that come along with mental health issues, which are very prevalent, especially with COVID. There's a lot of factors out there that contribute to that type of thing. And Josh has a podcast, and he's out there in the public space giving his recovery story and helping us to understand how he was able to overcome these types of hurdles and challenges in life.
Yeah.
Josh, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about your life, how it transpired to where things went wrong, and then ultimately you made a decision to change your life and to get things going again.
Yeah, for sure. That's one of the things that I wanted to do with my podcast, is that I didn't realize how quickly things can change, how quickly somebody can dive in or dip into a depression or, a substance abuse, because, my whole entire life, I was the happy-go-lucky type of dude. I was the life of the party. I was the first person to dance on the table. I'd be the first person there, the last one to leave, and I was doing very well, successfully. Worked my way up through corporate America. Ended up being at a $8 billion corporation, overseeing $580 million, 22,000 associates across Puerto Rico, Canada, the United States. Heavy six-figure income, traveling the world, and it was just, I was always looking for the next thing, for the next thing, for the next thing. Like, I was never, looking back, I understand that I was never okay with where I was at. I always had to have the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And back then I would just call it drive. But now there's a fine line there. And so kept working. And finally I got kind of sick and tired of putting money to a corporation's bottom line. So I said, you know what? I'm going to head out on my own and search for a company, try to put this deal together to buy a $10 million corporation. Spent about 8 months on the deal, day and night, before work, after work, and then kind of put that whole thing. And then in 1 year, I quit my six-figure job. I got married, I moved states, and tried to buy a $10 million company. I do not recommend doing all those in one time.
Big challenge. Just moving is stressful. How old were you when all this was going on? You had such early success. You're managing, working for this big company. Yeah. It sounds like you had everything going for you, but still in the pursuit of more, there was an emptiness, something you were trying to fill that you just weren't content. And you like you say, there's a balance between I had drive and ambition, and maybe I was just trying to fill some part of me that was never going to be satisfied.
Right. Yeah, 100%. I was always looking for the next thing, for the next thing, for the next thing. And it was so interesting because I had that throughout my whole entire life. I was 34, 35 years old. And then that's when I started to try to buy that $10 million company. And then I literally was in the lawyer's office ready to sign on the dotted line. And the seller had changed a couple of the logistics on there, and there was a expiration clause on the contract. And so what happened is that the bank said, hey, basically without this clause in there, we can't do it for you, we can't fund you. And 3 days later he ended up selling the company for cash. And what I understand now is that he used me to get the price up, right, and then sell it for cash. And that's neither here nor there. What the big issue is in my life, and what I've been trying to get with my podcast, Overcoming You, is that what happened after, that's where things really started to go downhill. And it started so small. With, here I am, I just quit my six-figure job. I'm getting married to the best person in the entire planet, my wife. I told her that she's going to have all this amazing life. I'm going to take care of her. I'm going to provide for her. And then what happened is that it slowly and surely started to start with like 1 hour of going, oh, you're a piece of SH, you're nothing, you're worthless. And then that slowly and surely I started to drink a little bit more, and then weekend drinking turned into midday drinking, turned into midweek drinking. And then slowly and surely it just kept going and going and going to the point where it was 6 and 8 months of every single day me telling myself that I'm a nothing, I'm a nobody, you're dumb, you're stupid, you're ugly. Then I started eating fast food every day. I'd get up in the morning, just leave, just because I wanted to isolate and be by myself. And it slowly and surely got so bad to the point where I ended up in a flea bag motel with enough cocaine to kill a small village, bottle of Jack Daniels, and 12 gauge Mossberg double pump action shotgun and 2 shotgun shells. And it was interesting. Because I'm such a numbers person, I wanted to make sure that when I did go through with it, it was done 100%. So actually, the little tally marks that you do, like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then slash through 5. I practiced 50 times with the shotgun sitting in the chair, and I said once I got to 50, then that was going to be the time. And then got to all the way to 50. I was out of cocaine. I was out of Jack Daniels. I had no more weed left, and I was like, this is it. Put the rest of my money I had out on the table. Little note to the police. I did this on my own recognizance. My name's Josh Knutti. No foul play. Put some money out there for the cleaning, just because I still had to be a people pleaser even at that time. And then went to go. And at this point in time, I wish I could tell you, Anthony, that it was the love of my life. I wish I could tell you it was the love of my friends, the zeal for life that would make me stop and not pull that trigger. But unfortunately I did. And I understand now, or I figured out, is that what had happened is that a few months prior, I changed the battery in my car and put it in my trunk. The shotgun shells were in the trunk. Battery fell over, whatever the acid is or whatever, kind of swelled those shells.
Wow.
And so when I went to go click the trigger, nothing happened.
Wow.
And then from there, I had to do a lot of things to kind of overcome and kind of push through that type of stuff. So
did you feel as if there was some purpose that maybe you had made the wrong decision to try and take your life because it didn't work out, and you were so prepared that maybe it was wrong, or you just took it as an it was a wake up moment? How did that thought process go?
What's funny, once I clicked the trigger, because, and not to be too graphic, but when you're in that chair and I'm getting ready to do that, there's a lot of emotion, and it was a big effort to push that trigger. And then when nothing went on, because of my mental health was in such depths of despair and so low, the first thing that I thought of was, way to go, stupid. You can't even do that right.
Right.
You can't even do this right.
Right.
And the other thing is that leading up is that, as much as, we know that we're on a podcast right now and this microphone is black, as true as that is, that's exactly how I felt about everybody else around me, being that I was a burden on their life, and they would be better off without me. You could not tell me any different. I knew that for a matter of fact, that every friend, family, my wife, everybody would be better off without me here. And so I was doing them a favor.
Right.
And so when that didn't go off, I felt like couldn't do this right, and I let them down, because that was going to be the best thing for all of them at that time.
Right. And depression especially, and these types of thoughts are so toxic that, especially for those of us who maybe have ever experienced a depressive state, when you come out of it, hours or days later, you look back and you realize that you were very depressed.
Yeah.
But at the time, you didn't necessarily feel depressed or feel any kind of way. You were just in this state of mind that seems natural, but you're really in a very depressive state with unhealthy thoughts and making poor decisions.
Yes.
And it's very hard to bring someone out of that, because your family, your friends, and people that come to you, you're very numb to it. You don't agree with them. You see yourself differently.
Yep.
So how did you manage to flip that coin? How did you manage to turn it around? Because it doesn't sound like the trigger aspect was any help. No. You still were left with these feelings.
Yeah, and you touch on something really important there, and that's one thing, especially in right now. As we're recording this, we got this pandemic, we got this COVID, we have, in America, we have Black Lives Matter, a lot of stuff going on. But the thing is that mental health starts so gradually. And it wasn't like I didn't get the $10 million deal or corporation, then the next day I'm trying to take my life. That's not it. It happens gradually, and that's why I'm so scared with with our society today is that as people start to lose their job, it's just like this little Chinese
Plants
torture.
those seeds.
Plants those seeds, and then all of a sudden it starts from just one thought, like, oh my God, I lost my job. I'm dumb. I'm stupid. I'm worthless. And then that one thought turns into 4 thoughts, turns into 8 thoughts, goes on and on and on until you get there. And so that's why I'm so scared, and I want to get this message out, and that's why I like what you're doing here, getting this message out. Right. But at the same time, the flip of the coin, like you're asking, is that coming out of it is a slow process too. It doesn't happen overnight. At least it didn't for me.
Right.
And so for me, I literally, after that day, I text 3 people: my brother, my best friend, and my wife. They came and got me out of the hotel. Went back to my house. I was in bed for at least a month straight. I didn't shower for multiple weeks, just watching whatever god-awful reality TV I could find just to be numb out of just so I didn't have to think about what
address what really happened.
Exactly.
You're kind of trying to find a way to escape as well.
Yep.
By watching TV or just not addressing the issue. And they say an idle mind's a devil's playground. So those thoughts fester and they grow. And even ignoring those thoughts doesn't do any good. It just sits there idly by. And I feel like for Josh, for a lot of us, we also identify with the loss of job. And
Yes.
I always say everyone has a different bottom or that aha moment. Sometimes it's, oh, hey, listen, if you don't stop, you're going to end up in jail. I've been to jail. I have friends there. Okay. Well, what if you lose your wife? Oh, can't lose my wife, or it's vice versa for somebody else. Hey, you're going to lose your wife. I'm not worried about that. But what if you lose your job? Oh, I can't lose my job. And so everyone has a different light bulb. But I think that, for men especially, and I'm sure it's true for women as well, but for those professionals, I would say that identify with their job. You're a bigwig in your early 30s, making all kinds of money, very stable.
Yep.
You've got the woman of your life, and then it's not all gone, but the identity's gone.
Yes.
I don't care if
Huge.
you're, working at the cash register at McDonald's and you're a cashier or a banker. That's kind of like you go home and look in the mirror and that's who you are. And when that's gone,
Yes.
you're like, oh gosh, well, who am I now? I don't have that job. I don't have the job I intended to. And now my wife and everyone is going to be let down. And who am I really if I don't have this job? And I just got to imagine that some of those thoughts were playing into this as well.
Without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah. And just speaking from a man's point of view, and everything that I know is that you're exactly right. And for me, it was 100% that way, is that my self-worth was directly correlated to my net worth.
Right.
For sure. The more money I made, the better identity I had, or the more I thought of myself. And without that, it was a big slap in the face. And so I had to figure out, who am I? What is my identity?
Right.
And one of the things I struggled so long before I told the story, because I thought it was so kind of dumb. And to be very honest, I thought people would look down upon me, even though it's really helped me, is that, when I was in bed for those weeks, for me, in order to build my self-worth, one of the ways that I know how to do it is to finally follow through on something that you tell yourself you're going to do.
Right.
When you are going to get physically fit, when you tell yourself you're going to go to the gym 2 days a week and you do it,
right,
you feel like Superman. You feel like you can conquer the world. Honey, you better watch out when I come home.
Hit the gym at 8 a.m. The day's a wrap. I don't even need to go to work. I've already accomplished so much, and it's not the gym. Although the gym is a great aphrodisiac, does a lot of good things for you to, help your body stay and mind stay right. What I'm trying to elaborate here is that it's not going to the gym. It was doing what you said you were going to do.
Yes, big time. And so I had to start so small, because I thought so little of myself. And I thought the reason I thought so little of myself, once again, is because I've had 6, 7, 8 months of nonstop belittling, berating, thinking poorly of myself.
From yourself.
From myself.
Not from others.
Anyone else.
Yeah.
Not from anyone else. And so I was like, in my mind, my logic and my tactics that I knew that I've heard it takes 21 days to create a habit. And so I said, okay, I'm going to literally take a quarter. And so I said to myself, for 30 days, I'm going to take this quarter and I'm going to move it from my nightstand to my dresser. I didn't tell my wife, didn't say anything. I was like, I just want to do that, go back and forth. And then I remember at about like day, who knows, 10, 11, 12, 13, I got in bed and I saw the quarter, and it's not like I live in a mansion, so it's not like it's way far away, like I'm in like some thing in Newport Coast or like, some millionaire's mansion. I'm 6'2", so it's one step away. I got long strides, so it's one step away. So it's not far at all.
It's the other side of the room.
Yeah. And I sat there and I looked at it and I go, you should go get that. You told yourself we're going to get that. I was like, then I have this conversation. You're so dumb. Who's going to know? This is so stupid. This isn't going to do anything. It's not going to do anything. This is so dumb. This is so dumb. Josh, you're a moron. Why are you even thinking about this? What does it matter about this stupid quarter? And I'm having this conversation and it's one step away. Yep. And then finally I'm like, screw it. So I get up. I move it over, whatever, day 20, day 21, day 30. And I have to be honest, it was the first time since the suicide attempt that I actually felt good about myself. Did I feel like Superman? Was I ready? Was I cured? Absolutely not. Did I still think poorly of myself? Absolutely. But when I did that day 30, I was like, I did it.
Yeah.
And then from there, looking back, obviously there's a lot more work that went into this, a lot of other things that I did, going to therapy, doing some other work. But from there, started taking showers regularly, which I know sounds small. Yeah. From there, be consistent with that. Then all of a sudden I went to the gym once, then went to the gym twice. And then I was like, I always hated running, so let me try running. And then 1 mile turned into 5 miles, turned into... I actually finished my first marathon after that, so nice. It's all these, and the reason why I don't say that to glorify me and, oh, fantastic, Josh, you're so great, but it's those little tiny decisions that we make that's compounding effect.
Absolutely.
That happen, that can make you have the most joy and have an amazing life, but also can have the worst depths of despair. It depends on which way you compound them.
Such a good dichotomy, a good thing to explain. I think a lot of us especially deal with stress and mental health and these things. When you start to realize the impact of each decision, the smallest impact can have a huge repercussion. I drink and I decide to drive home. I'm in an accident. Something bad happens. Or, just anything to break that mental health. Our mind is so powerful that you can be whoever you want to be. You can own the business you wanted to own. You could have certainly turned it around and bought another $10 million business.
Could've.
You certainly could have done that. I'm sure a lot of people are asking, like, well, why'd you stop there? If you're such an entrepreneur, why'd you let this hit you? But the mind is so powerful, and you have these other stresses going on, and one thought leads to another. Yep. And I never had heard that quarter story. Yeah. And I think is just such a key for others to think of. It's not about the quarter. It's about the process. It's about the mental aptitude and changing your mind into a positive behavior, a positive outcome. I think those who smoke cigarettes probably really understand that, where they don't make excuses in life. They don't have problems at work, but for some reason they want to quit, and every day they're not quitting. Yep. They're failing. And it's a psychologically draining thing for anybody. And that's the worst part about addiction, I think, is that it imprisons you. It takes you away from your freedom. You can't do anything without something else, namely a substance or whatnot. And so taking control of your life again, just through a small action, led to improvement in your mental health. Yep. And so that's really good organic work, and you don't have to get therapy or go to rehab or something to change your life. Yep. But there is help out there. At what point did you involve yourself in therapy and say, I need to get to the bottom of this, and not just do self-inspection, but have someone else give me some opinions about what's going on in my life? Yeah, so probably about, I would say about 2 months, maybe 3 months after the suicide attempt, that's when I started to really dive in. This was after the quarter, so it literally started with that quarter. So now, like I said, I know it's funny, but now I'm showering regularly. I just started to go to the gym, and I've always been active, so I knew that would help. So about 2 months, 3 months after, then started therapy. I went to multiple different therapists to try to find the right one, which is really valuable. I didn't realize that. I thought all of them were perfect, but it's really finding the right one that works with you. Yeah. So I didn't realize that. So that was a process. And then, tried some different medications to help.
and tried some other therapies, a lot of meditation, staying true to my diet, staying true to physical health, trying other treatments like TMS. Are you familiar with that?
I'm not familiar with TMS.
So TMS is actually pretty interesting. It's what it's called Transcranial Magnetic System.
Okay.
And it's the place that I went to is, I forget the name, but they were really, really good in the fact that they do it in conjunction with therapy. And they were actually they would not let me do the treatment unless I had a therapist.
Right.
And so what happens in the brain, and I just had a neurologist on my podcast talking about this.
Yes.
Is that, so how when you're driving home, you take the same exit pretty much 99% of the time, unless there's, traffic or something like that. So the same thing happens with the brain. And during my depression and during a lot of our depression, we take the same exit and think the same way in our brain. We create these neural pathways.
Yes.
And create these neural pathways to the point where that's the only way we can think.
It's a dug-in road.
It's a dug-in road, and so we can't veer off. We can't take back streets. We don't know that we can exit the freeway, mile early and take a back street and avoid all that garbage or that traffic. And so what this treatment does, it actually will send magnetic pulses, which I know sounds odd, doesn't hurt. It's an outpatient treatment, and will kind of break up those neural pathways.
Yes.
And then with therapy, with meditation, with proper diet, with exercise, all that together,
yes,
you can slowly start to erode those pathways and find different exits or different ways to kind of think.
Yes.
And so it's a combination of everything, not just one. It's a combination of everything. So there's a combination of all that really started to help.
And that it helped you recover faster and reestablish those connections. That's a really good technology. We always love to hear about new models and treatment, new ways of just helping yourself recover. We had Dr. Howie Fox. You can check out another Sheer Recovery podcast with I always mess this one up. Somatic electronic activation. It's been proven for a long time in pain management, but it's similar with the electrodes, and it's designed to help your synapses and dopamine levels recover faster so the body heals, and probably helps with neural pathways and those things. So these types of new treatments in therapy as an adjunct, as a supplement to therapy, because just because you're thinking better or happier doesn't mean you have the introspection of where the thought's coming from, what the actual trauma is, and how to internally resolve it. So, knowing the path to take is different than, just having the right chemical balance. So that's so really encouraging. And I think everyone that is listening understands that, look, none of these things are easy to fix. You know, it takes work and it takes effort, and there's a ton of help out there, but you've got to be willing. How was your family support in the time? Because you sound like such a self-starter that you kind of created your own problems and fixed your own problems at the same time. I mean, what about your new wife and your family? Were they supportive? Did they understand what you were going through?
That's actually a really good question. And it's something that I'll be very upfront is that I'm still working with today, because especially with my wife, is that you're absolutely right. Not to dive too much into my upbringing or whatnot, but I didn't have a family growing up. I was out on my own very, very early age, teenage years, and started working on my own. So I didn't really have that family support system. So I've always been, I'll do it for myself, by myself. Get out of my way. I don't need anybody.
Right.
To everything. And what I realized is that during that time, because I didn't allow my wife to help me, that I eroded some of that relationship. And one of the things that I want everybody here to listen is that, think about it if the roles were reversed. Is if my wife Jeanette was going through that, I would do anything. I would gladly stand in front of any train. I would fight anybody. I would swim across anything to help her. Period. End of story. There was nothing I would not do.
Right.
And that would give me satisfaction. That would make me feel, I would fill up with love in order to do that for her.
Right.
But I didn't allow her the opportunity to do that because I was so secluded. I was so isolated. I just wanted to do it all myself.
Right.
And looking back, if I would have reached out sooner, I probably would have never been down that road. And we may be in a much different spot.
And it had to be difficult for her or any family member, and loved ones always see this because they always want the best for their son, their daughter, their husband, their wife. They don't want to see them suffer.
Yeah.
Even if the relationship's not good, they don't want to see something bad happen because they genuinely care. And so when you're reaching out and you're putting out your hand to help them, it gets slapped away and it's like, I'm going to handle this myself, or I'm withdrawn. And like you said, the roles reversed. You're trying to help your wife in this hypothetical, and you're putting yourself out there and you see her hurting and she doesn't accept it. That's difficult to internalize. And so it draws, it's difficult because now you love someone who isn't returning that affection. So love's a two-way street.
For sure.
And especially someone in your case who went 0 to 100 or 100 to 0, really.
Yeah.
You're on a path and almost like a bipolar, something that could just change. And it's like the man she was marrying is not present. She's probably saying, hey, I'm not signing up for this. This is a lot. But that's where the recovery story that you have is so positive, because it's within ourselves to overcome these, overcoming you, as you say. And once you can do that, your mind is just as strong as it is weak. So if you turn those strengths on, that go-get-em attitude, and you take the right steps and hear the right advice, you can come out of it. And when you really do fully recover, and you are now a more well-adjusted person that doesn't have these shortcomings, and if you get turned down by a $10 million business offer, whatever in the future, you would react differently.
For sure.
Right? So I think that any person in your family, in your life, your loved ones have to respect that and appreciate that. It almost elevates you to a new level.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's such a significant change in behavior, especially when it comes to like taking away substances, that it causes other problems. Because now if my fiance or my wife or whoever is like drinking or using and I'm not, there's its own issue. So, recovery is a journey. It's difficult, but the other side, the grass is much greener, typically when you come out of these things.
For sure.
We're proud to have you here with us today.
I appreciate that.
So when did you launch the podcast?
So I launched on August 26, 2019. So I'm just coming up to about a year pretty soon here, year anniversary. And that was the whole impetus or the catalyst for the podcast, is after I did a lot of the work that we briefly discussed or that we went through, is that I realized that the only reason why I was in that motel at that moment was because of my thoughts, was because of the way I was perceiving the world.
Right.
And what I understand now is that the mind in your thoughts can have you have the worst life you've ever had in your entire life, but it is also can make you have the best life filled with the most joy. It all depends on how you use it.
Right.
And it seems so simplistic, but that is the real difference between people that go through recovery or people that overcome or people that push through, people that make, the entrepreneur jump, or people that don't, or people that are in the Olympics. It's all about how they think, and getting that going in that right direction is so crucial. And I just wanted to first, I think I said this on the phone when we were chatting before, is that I still have some work to do inside of me, because there's some people on this planet that I hate, and I know I shouldn't hold hate, and I understand it, so I'm working on it. I get it.
Yeah.
But even those people that I hate, I don't want them to go through a nanosecond of what I went through.
Right.
I would not wish that on anybody whatsoever. And the thing is that anybody on the planet can get there. And so I want to try to help stop, harness.
See the warning signs.
Yes. So that's why I want to talk to people like you. I want to be associated with organizations like this that are getting out there and putting this message out. So if you are going down that path, maybe you hear something on this podcast, on this show that says, oh, maybe I'm going down the wrong road. Or if you are on that wrong road, maybe you hear something and go, hey, that bonehead Josh, he seems like a pretty big moron. If he could do it, I can probably do it. You know?
I think that it's so surprising how literally it could happen to anyone.
Yes.
I'm definitely, if it happened to me, it can happen to you guys. Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, you see Tyson Fury, heavyweight champion of the world.
Yeah.
And you've got to be so strong-minded and so strong-willed to accomplish something like that. But then you realize, and he shares his story, and maybe we'll have Tyson on one day.
There you go.
But if his own mind is that strong to win the heavyweight championship of the world, you imagine it can take you down the wrong path as well if you let it to.
For sure.
And I think the biggest key here, just in recovery, that I picked up from what you were saying about changing your mindset and about these goals, it wasn't that I need to change my mindset to have a goal to get somewhere. It all came from within.
Yes.
It's not that I need to go get a job making 6 figures again. You change your mindset to, I need to love myself. I need to be present for my wife.
Yep.
I need to have better relationships and stronger mental health so I can bring joy to other people's lives. Seems like you're a people pleaser.
Yeah.
And that's a wonderful characteristic. We all need more people like that are a light in our life.
Yeah.
And
that was the thing that kind of, looking back, when I was going to purchase that corporation, when I was really big into visualization. And so, but when I was visualizing having that company, I wasn't visualizing owning the company. What I was visualizing is all the nonprofits that money would allow me to do, because I've started a couple nonprofits in my life. So I want to start more of them. I thought about all of my friends' kids because I'm 38 years old, so they're all having kids right now. Yeah. And I was like, I'm going to have all of them work at my company and show them the value of $1, show them how to lead, show them management skills, and show them how to read these things and all these things that I would do. And then when I didn't have it, I realized I felt like I let everybody down.
Right.
And now going through exactly what you just said, learning from within, is that I don't have to have $10 million to help all these people. Right. I can have a microphone, talk to another human being that has a heart of service that wants to make a difference. Right. And we can broadcast this and millions of people can hear it.
And they get the message.
Exactly.
And you know, if you reach that one person, you reach that Josh Knutti who's in some hotel somewhere, happened to turn on Spotify or YouTube or whatever, and just wanted to maybe educate themselves. Because look, addicts and people that struggle, we are the smartest, most capable people on this earth.
Yep.
Our mindset and our ambitions are just sometimes misguided. So when you're able to, and it's difficult, take yourself out of the situation, have hindsight, have perspective, and then plug yourself back in as the self you want to be.
Yep.
You can remake yourself by overcoming your shortcomings. No one's perfect here. I mean, we've all got plenty of problems. I don't care if you've never had a drink or a drug, like everyone has problems.
Yep.
And the brave do something about it, whether it's just seeing a therapist once in a while or getting some help. Yeah. And I feel like in 2020, as much craziness as there is, the recovery community has come to life. And we're out there sending a message, and this message was not heard before. Mm-hmm. And people wouldn't talk about depression or any of these things because of the shame and guilt.
Yes.
And so that's something that we really saw from your message and from your podcast of, someone who's on that path of recovery, right? Yep. You hear a lot of the war stories of what went wrong, how bad did it get, and then I saw a therapist and went to rehab or something and boom, got my life back, and then you don't hear the rest. But to hear of the journey step by step and the struggles, and that you have moments of despair, whatever, that pop up, and how you handle it, people really need that message.
Yeah.
Tell us how to find your podcast or how to tune in so we can hear more. I know this is kind of a broad stroke overview, but you go into much more detail on a lot of different topics. Where can we find that? Where can we hear more about how you've overcome yourself, your past self, or been your best self?
Yep.
How do we find Overcoming You?
So right now, on all platforms, Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, you can find it anywhere on there. Nice. On Instagram. Overcoming You, the letter U, and right about now.
Nice.
Yep.
Excellent. Stitcher, that's a new one.
Yeah.
We got to get on Stitcher.
Yeah.
No, that's wonderful. Josh, thank you so much for joining our podcast today.
It. Thank you.
Really good message. Check out Josh Knutti when you get a chance. Thank you for tuning in to the Sheer Recovery Podcast. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, iHeart, all those things. Like and subscribe, follow along, and stay sober, stay well.